I worked on a HBO show called Random Acts of Flyness.
It's a thing of beauty.
The creator is the most talented person I think I've ever had the privilege to meet.
You might not be ready.
Welcome and thanks for tuning in to another episode of Let's Get Creative. I'm your host, Hope Lopez. Let's get creative with our special guest, Gabriela McDaniels. Let's do it. Okay, so this is really exciting. I have read so much about your work, and I love the fact that there's always a constant growth with each job. So like I honestly feel like this is tell me your story basically. Like how did you come here and what made you want to realize that you wanted to be a creator or an artist?
I think like the way that we define artist or like a creative person, when people say those words, you think of like a musician or somebody that's like a painter or a sculptor, things like that.
Yeah.
I used to always say that I wasn't artistically inclined. All of my siblings, like they're amazing drawers. Like my cousins are all great singers and things like that. So I'd be like, like I'm not artistically inclined. But then I started kind of exploring really what that word means and how there's different ways of defining it.
Mm,
And that's when I realized like I am very creative. I have a lot of thoughts up here. Like my imagination runs wild all the time. And it'd be
yeah.
really nice to put that somewhere. I'm not a writer per se, but it would just be nice to like see it somewhere. So I consider myself a visual artist.
Yes.
Yeah, basically I have like the most peculiar backstory. I'm pretty sure there's not a lot of people that
Let's go. Let's hear it.
So I was working for Verizon for a while doing like
Mhm.
marketing and advertising for their FiOS department, and my team was the top-notch team. Like every month we were like on the top of the board. Um,
Mhm.
but I realized after like 6 months, even though I was making a lot of money and, living what a lot of people would consider the dream, I was very bored. And I kept
Mhm.
noticing that with a lot of jobs, I would get complacent and bored very easily. So I
Mhm.
took off some time. I took off like 3 weeks. I was like, I got enough money saved. It's fine. Um, let's just
Mhm.
figure this thing out. And in those 3 weeks, I sat at my local bar, sat at my local bar every single day and not really even drinking. I would like buy food and just chit chat with different people in the neighborhood. And because I was in New York, a lot of my neighbors were celebrities. And I didn't even realize it because I
Nice.
was working all the time.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So now when I'm not working, I'm able to sit down and really like take the neighborhood in and see,
Mhm.
what it had to offer. And I realized that like everybody was a director or producer, and I had already
Mhm.
thought that I wanted to be a producer. So, and talking to this one guy, we got super, got super wasted one night, and I was like, I finally built up enough liquid courage to tell you what my goals are.
Right. Right. Like, okay, now you're gonna see a vulnerable side of me. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Uh, so he
That's
was
so
like, cool, if you're interested, email me on Monday. And Monday at 9 a.m., I was in his inbox.
yeah. That's
Um,
awesome.
yeah, and he was like, okay, I'll put you in touch with my executive assistant, and
Mhm.
we'll set up an interview and yada yada. And fast forward to 2.5 years later when I was his executive assistant. So it was
Nice. Oh my
awesome.
God, that's so amazing.
So yeah, so that was like that was really awesome. And then when he realized that I was ready to grow and expand, my knowledge and as far as like the industry was involved, he was like,
Yeah.
use my name, get a job. So
Yeah. So I want to hear some of your inspirations and like just what type of like art do you listen to, like music, just anything, like actors, producers.
as far as like my inspiration or like favorite influences, I would say I look to a lot of strong Black women, honestly, like
Yeah.
Viola Davis, Issa Rae, Zendaya,
Mm,
Angela Bassett, Sheryl Lee Ralph, like all of those people,
yeah.
which is so funny. I like I look at Shirley Ralph because she's been around so long, like she's just getting this recognition now.
Yeah.
But I was a server.
Yeah.
I was a server at this restaurant in Philadelphia a few years ago when they were just starting to pilot this show, Abbott Elementary. And
Yeah.
because I hadn't really like made it into the industry yet, so I was still serving on the side like we all do. And
Oh yeah.
he was at my table. And I was the only person in the whole restaurant who knew who she was because I had watched
Really?
Moesha as a kid, So I was like, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
like this is the mom from Moesha. And everyone was like, what are you talking
Iconic. Like she's so iconic though. So it's like, how does no and she
Yeah.
was in theater, no, too?
Yeah,
Like
and
she
she was
yeah,
like
she
one
was
of
a
the original
big
Dream Girls.
dude, no way.
Yeah.
Oh my God,
So
that's actually incredible. She's been around. I love
yeah,
that.
for a long
But
time. But yeah, I
yeah.
look at people like that, people that are working in my industry, have figured out a way to make it work for them and have continued to progress over the years.
I'm curious, how did you find your calling? Like, what is the backstory? Like, did you, besides like, we already talked about it a little earlier, but like, did you have any like inclination growing up besides, your family being like artists, or like, did you just, I don't know.
Oh yeah, I always wanted to be in the film industry. It's so
Yeah,
funny.
nice.
So when I was maybe like 7 or so, I wanted to be a stunt double. So I was like, I'm just gonna be a stunt
Nice.
double or stunt man. Like this is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna
Yeah.
run into walls and hurt myself for a living. As I got
That's silly.
older, that that quickly evolved to just bigger and better things. I was always really interested in music. And
Mm,
at one point in time, like in middle school, high school, I was like, maybe I want to go into that direction and be like a music producer.
yeah.
Um, and then I was looking at classes at Full Sail University. And
Mm,
my dad went to an orientation with me and he said, it's too much money.
yeah.
Sorry, pick something
It's
else.
it's unsustainable. Like the amount of like how much it costs just to get an education, it's crazy. It's
Well,
insane.
it's insane too because like I would say, and don't quote me on this because it's not a real statistic, but maybe
Yeah.
about like 85% of people that go to film school don't actually end up in the film industry. Like they can't
Mm,
get jobs afterwards. And
mm,
it really sucks because when I was looking at Full Sail back in like 2007, 2008, it was
mm,
70,000 a year. I don't know what
mm.
it is today, but that's a lot of money to be
It's
putting out
crazy.
for something that you may not be able to get a job doing. Um,
Mm,
but yeah, as far as my calling, I would say yeah, it was those 3 weeks where I just sat and really reflected. Like a lot of people don't do this. A lot of people just like, I need to make money. I need a job. I'll just take whatever comes to me and they work it and they're miserable for a
mm,
long time. And
mm,
I didn't want that for my life anymore. So I like sat down and with a pen and paper and was writing down questions. What's going to make me happy for today, tomorrow, and maybe the rest of my life? What is I watched a lot of motivational videos. This sounds so cheesy, but I
it's
watched a
okay.
lot of goal
Yeah.
crest videos of celebrities that were doing what I was doing. And even still today, like I'm a student still now. Like I'm watching when I get bored at work, which there in post, like, there's not a lot of downtime, but there's a lot of paperwork all the time. So it can be a little
Yeah.
mundane. But what I do is I put on like variety actors on actors or directors on directors, and I
Yeah.
just listen to those conversations because these are people who are doing what I want to do in my industry, and they've made it to a certain level of success. So I'm like, let's hear what they have to
Yeah.
say.
Did you ever have a mentor?
I have many mentors.
Yeah.
Some of them are now close friends of mine, and a lot of them are, like I said, just like different people that I look to that are already doing this.
Yeah.
Um, but one of my mentors, who probably doesn't even know that she was a mentor of mine, is a good friend of mine named Shannon Sun Higginson. And
Mm,
I mean, she's a she's a producer and she's pretty famous, I would say. She works
Hmm.
on a lot of documentary films, but she is also a person of color, being Asian American. Um, for me, in 2014 when I first met her on a megabus, and she
Hmm.
told me, like this is what I do for a living. I was like, whoa,
Yeah.
wait, you're a person of color. Dude, you like making it in this industry? That's possible, and that
Snaps around, let's go. Yeah.
exactly. And
Honestly.
that kind of like opened my eyes to be like, oh, well, you can do this. Maybe you're just not in the right headspace or the right physical space. Maybe I need to be in New York. Maybe I need to, there's just a lot of questions that kind of can't flood in my brain at that moment. And I was like, oh yeah, if she could do it, I could do it. I'm gonna do it.
Yeah, seriously. Honestly, you can't see what you can, where you can't be what you can't see. So I'm a firm believer in like having that just representation, because honestly, it has been so damaging since the creation of like ever since, like, obviously with stereotypes and obviously with like microaggressions, everything. Like I feel like it's so important for us to reverse that. Not reverse it, but to learn and accept and to move forward from that. But unfortunately, just the state that we are in, um it's hard for people to think that way. And
Yeah.
it's really messed up actually, because people are being so like close-minded, and that's always been the case though, like throughout history. So yeah.
It's true what you say though. Like, I mean, even my hair, for instance, like I locked my hair during the pandemic, but I would have never done this if in New York State they didn't have the Crown Act, which was a law that was written
Yeah.
very recently that basically just said
Yeah.
you can't discriminate against someone for their hair and not hire them because
Mm-hmm.
of how their hair is, because, and that was written specifically for Black people, and I want to say Black women in particular,
Mm-hmm.
because we use a lot of natural hairstyles,
Mm-hmm.
so I'm like, oh, this is amazing. Wait, hold on. I'm protected? Okay, cool. Because
Yeah.
before I feel like I felt the need to conform to certain social norms in order to be accepted in certain rooms,
Yeah.
And now
Same.
I walk
Yeah.
in and I'm just like, cool, I am who I am.
Yeah.
I'm really good at my job. Let's get this done, And so far it's been a fun ride.
I'm just really glad that we we just go through our phases of like, first we feel like, oh, imposter syndrome or something like that. And then we can go, and it's especially stronger, like again with women of color, because we have not seen them in these power positions before. I'm still referring to, like, I always think about like the Senate, like back when the squad, like, oh my God,
Yeah.
AOC, amazing. She's
Mhm.
amazing. Elon Omar, oh my God. I love like the four women who were there, because they are the actual representatives in a sea of like white men. So I feel like it's definitely just powerful for you to be here, for anybody who's of color to be here. So this is honestly our calling, and this is what we picked up for. So it's great.
I worked on a HBO show called Random Acts of Flyness.
It's a thing of beauty.
The creator, this guy is the most talented person I think I've ever had the privilege to meet. His name is
Mm-hmm.
Terrence Nance.
Mm-hmm.
He's the creator, writer, producer, director, editor, you name
Yeah.
it, Terrence, and he's the lead actor in the show.
Oh,
Um,
snap. Another one. Let's go.
yeah,
Let's
Terrence
go.
he is a whole vision board. But yeah, he just the way that his mind works is honestly so amazing. It just makes you take a step back and go, wow, this is a person who has really done a deep dive into every detail of, all of the maybe insecurities that he may have had growing up.
Mm-hmm.
Just like literally everything. Like he's like, I'm so in touch with who I am as a person and who my people are and where I come from, and like this is who I am. And the fact that
Mm-hmm.
like his show was it sounds so crazy that I was even gonna say the word allowed to be on the channel, on a major network. It's crazy that I even had to say that word. Like, it's a show. He's a creative human
Yeah.
being who
Yeah.
made a very amazing television program. They're on season 2 right now, and that's the season that I got to be a part of in the beginning of the filming and post stages, which was
Hmm.
it was just so great. But sorry, you'll have
Yeah.
to watch it. Go watch it. This is a plug for
Yes.
Redefines.
No, advertise yourself. Love
Do a
it.
deep dive. Do a deep dive. But no,
Let's go.
it was a great show. He uses a lot of like imagery and parodies
Hmm.
to like nursery rhymes or even characters that we all grew up with, like Bugs
Hmm.
Bunny and just like characters like Mickey Mouse, Bugs Bunny, Porky the Pig, all these characters that we watched growing up as children and we didn't think
Hmm.
anything of it. But he really dismantles kind of like the innocence of it and talks about what the true meaning of these characters were and who like how
Mm.
they were developed and what they stood for. 9 times out of 10 it's all racism. It really sucks. Like nothing. But
It's everywhere. It's literally ingrained in the most like nuanced shit. You know what I mean? It's like,
exactly like
what
a
the
children's
hell?
show, like a children's show, like what? Yeah,
Oh my, that's
but
honestly, yeah. Do you have any positive messages to tell anybody who wants to pursue or like that has that passion but just doesn't have, you know, that support coming from their family, friends, etc. What do you think?
every Monday, my friend Pedro and I, we used to write our goals down. And the next Monday, we'd be like, all right, what did we check off the list? What are we still working towards? Yada, yada.
Mm,
It's something that I still do to this day. And I mean, it's part of the reason why I just bought my first house with my wife. Like, like just signed the papers today, which is so exciting. Um, but it's
yay.
solely that. It was writing down those goals. That's been a goal of mine, to be like, okay, I'm gonna buy a house, in Philadelphia where my whole family lives right now. Basically, it's like my grandparents, great grandparents. I'm like, I'm gonna buy a house here so I could be close to them. I want to,
Hmm.
spend as much time with them, yada yada. And that's been on my list since 2018. It's 2023. So what, 5 years, and here we are. I did it.
I just love how, you know, there's just a plan for everything in a roadmap and a vision. So that's literally the most important thing. Just to do you see yourself in that position 5, 10 years, blah 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 blah. So I
Oh,
think that's great. You literally you got it all down. You're killing it. Um, I have one more question before we head off. What can we look forward for you in the future, like project wise?
project wise. So I am
Yeah.
working on a project with Apple TV right now. It's
Mm.
it's on IMDb, so I'm pretty sure I could talk about
Oh snap,
it.
let's go.
It's called The Crowded Room. I'm not gonna say too much about it, but it's a great show. It's gonna be on Apple TV. It has a star-studded cast
Oh
with Tom
snap.
Holland, Amanda Seyfried, Emmy Rossum, a couple other people. It's based on a book that I'm actually reading right now, and then I heard that there's also a
Oh.
Netflix like doc on it, so I'm gonna
Mm-hmm.
watch that next. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, as far as my project, so that is the next thing that's the immediate next thing that I'm coming out with. It's gonna be a big year.
It is.
2024 is gonna be exciting. I feel like I'm not gonna be able to sit down.
Honestly, I'm so happy for you. I'm just excited to see where your projects go and to see you like shot into fame. Like I'm waiting for that day to happen soon. And I know honestly, I feel like the more like support we get with regards to like, our ambitions and stuff, the more we believe in ourselves. And I just want to thank you for like joining us today on this podcast. I
Thank you
feel
guys for
very
having
blessed.
me.
I just feel very blessed to meet such incredible people, and honestly, I have full faith that I'm gonna see you like in the bright lights. Like honestly, it's gonna be great and you're gonna have a great year. All right. So thanks for listening. Today's podcast is sponsored by Anchor, the #1 platform for podcasters and creatives. This podcast is produced by Mozart Media. And yeah, that's it. This is Gabriella. You are going to see so much more of her later, and hopefully, we can work together someday in the future. So that
Oh
would be
yeah,
amazing.
definitely.